So Brett Cameron, who you've mentioned has been a standout with the Hurricanes, has been beside probably the player of the competition in Cam Roigard. He got injured over the weekend. If you missed it, he was on gas, which means he was in serious pain, and it sounds like he has done his patella tendon, which could be a very long-term injury. And we're all hoping that it's not, because the form that this guy's in, you want to see him playing in Super Rugby, but we're about to see his injury. And Jeff, you were there, you saw it straight away.
Yeah, recognised. We don't need to watch this too many times. Look, this is devastating for him.
Yeah.
He was playing in such good form. The impact he had last year, you know, there's no doubt clearly he was going to be in the conversation. We've got to wait and see. Let's not jump to the conclusion. Look, I think he was the form 9 in Super Rugby. Let's not jump to any conclusions. Let's let things play out. But if we think worst case scenario, the Hurricanes have lost a really big part of their game plan, of their attack, of their threats. Look, they're still very, very good, and you've got TJ Perenara, but you're missing a lot now that Cam Roigard is probably unlikely out for a long time.
What's our French halfback's name?
Antoine Dupont.
Antoine Dupont changed how halfbacks play, and I think Cam is that. Right, he has that balance between running the extra. You know, I always talk about a passing halfback and a sort of running halfback. He's got the combination, and he's so strong around the ruck that I thought he was putting his hand up as I'm the #1 halfback.
Yeah, just the way he's been playing. I mean, he was the form halfback, and man, this is a massive blow, massive for the Hurricanes. Am I worried about our stocks? Not necessarily. I think we've still got plenty around. If we're talking about the bigger picture, if he's out for the rest of the year, I think there's still enough there. Christie's still available. Fakatava's around.
Are you happy though for the Hurricanes in terms of for them with TJ Perenara and is it Richard Judd? Is he the backup? How much does this affect them?
The style of play.
Well, the Hurricanes, how much does it affect them?
Well, I think TJ's come back in a different nick, right? He looks a lot better. You know, physically, he almost looks like he's trimmed down a lot. I think he'll be hungry. And let's not forget, he got his opportunity because TJ fell injured as well. So this is all part of the sort of rugby. So Roigard wouldn't have got as many games, perhaps if TJ Perenara didn't get injured. I think he's brought a bit of a hunger. Experience is key. I mean, you're one shy short of that 61 tries. I mean...
does he come back into All Black contention in a season like this?
What do you think,
Totally.
Absolutely.
Roigard's out, then, I mean, TJ's come back. I wasn't that in favour to begin with because I thought he'd finish. He's come back, he's knuckled down, come off the injury, got back into the All Blacks, playing really well. He looks fit, strong, he comes on, you can see him talking. So, if you're someone like Razor, your first season, if you've got a couple... And I agree, I think Christie's playing incredibly well, so our stocks are okay. But if you're looking at experience, like we spoke about with Barrett, you're going to need those guys in your first year while you're transitioning into...
See, the upside now is he gets to play.
Yeah.
He gets to play big minutes and gets the opportunity to shine and show what he's capable of. We wouldn't have had him in the conversation if he wasn't playing, whereas now TJ's going to get that chance. So I think, should he be in the conversation, what I think he'll do first and foremost is he'll keep this Hurricanes team on track on where they are and who they are and keep them going forward. Yeah. He looked really good, had a good chat to him after the game. You can see he's confident, he's got great faith in where his body's at and how hard he's worked to get to where he is, and his conditioning has always been very good, but he almost looks as though he's got a little bit of that pop back in terms of his speed. So.
Yeah, exactly. But I almost think sometimes, when you're coming back and you're concentrating on yourself and you've been a leader for years and years, sometimes when you just, worry about yourself and take that responsibility away from it, it almost freshens you up. And I sense, because there's so much, momentum into their team, there's success, he's almost been a benefactor of that to come in now and go, hey, I'm going to be a little bit selfish about the way I'm going to play and I'm going to get a lot of minutes now.
So you're talking about an experienced player like TJ Perenara being back in the mix. Where does this leave Finlay Fakatava, who of course had that serious knee injury last year? And what about the youngsters? What about Cortez Latimer and Noah Hotham?
Yeah, I thought Fakatava was quiet for 2 weeks. He was better this weekend, and you and I had a discussion about that, Goldie. For me, he needs to get back to consistent week in, week out. When he's good, he's very good. Sometimes he goes a bit quiet for me, but he's certainly in the discussion.
The hard part, Mills, is he's playing for a team, and we think about who the Highlanders have just had to play, and you lost a little bit of momentum, and you think about the way that he does play. I like his style of football.
Yeah.
If he was playing in a team that was going forward and playing well, how would he look? That's the question you have to have if he's pulling on the All Black jersey. is they go, okay, if the platform is there, if they're playing at speed, does it allow him to show what he can do really, really well? He's showing glimpses of it for the Highlanders, but the Highlanders are clearly, when they've come up against the big guns, and that's what they've come up against in the last 3 weeks, they haven't been able to have that impact. And one of those was the Brumbies. And the Brumbies showed on the weekend, I think they're a tough team. So this is for Folau, is that he's got to keep showing the consistency he can in a team that may not be dominating Mills.
But I think if you look at it, the last couple of years, he's had to play a totally different role. He's had to come off the bench and spark like that. You know, he hasn't gone into a game where you have to sort of feel your way through, look at opportunities, not sort of come on, you know, right from the get-go and look at every opportunity. And that's probably the balance of his game. You know, the fact that, you know, you talk about, you know, traditional halfbacks, it's just to clear the ball. Aaron Smith was probably like that, and he found his way into sniping a bit. Fakatava has had to come on for the last couple of years and just spark things up by creating that. He's probably doing a little bit too much without really realising that.
Yeah, no, I just want to know what you think, Goldie, we need to see from him if he's going to have a non-dominant forward pack. Does he need to improve his kicking game? Like, it's no use us going, well, the forward pack, so what do we need to see? A better kicking game, a better judgment around what?
Well, it ultimately is how he's going to impact the game for that side and what they need him to do. And what I think we should never underestimate is defensively he's really, really good. Great over the ball, he's a great defender. You know, it's about some of those little accuracies when things break down, how do you restart? Or, like you say, the accuracy of the kicking game, making sure if it's a contestable, it's contestable. If you want to find grass, you find grass. Give your team the best chance to regroup. So there's those accuracies, but it's really making that connection. I think they lost a little bit when they played against the Brumbies when Reece Patchell didn't play. Yeah. Cam Miller, they just lost a little bit there and his confidence got knocked. Maybe, I'm not sure around that, but it didn't look like he looked better again, but that was up against a team like the Hurricanes who are just on fire right now. The one thing that's great about all of this, and you mentioned it earlier on, is Finlay Christie, because you know what you're going to get. Yeah. Like his form, he holds his form. Now, it might not be spectacular. He might not do the brilliant things, but the fundamentals, the competitiveness, the accuracies you need out of him, kicking game's good, passing game's good. It's nice to know that if you had to not fall back, but look at what his skill set is, his special set of skills, he does the fundamentals of a halfback really well.
Well, I think he's spectacular because of all the things you mentioned. Like, he doesn't really have a weakness. He can defend. He's got a really good pass, he can kick, he can dart when he needs to, and he's our current incumbent. So he was picked ahead of Roigard. So, you know.
Different role though, to play a different role coming off the bench.
Yeah, but I'd have no trouble if he started as our test halfback if we're playing next week. I'd have no problem with that, because like, you should see his cover defence and stuff. Like, I think sometimes we don't talk of him because he might not do the spectacular, but he does everything else like at an incredible level. So his spectacular for me is you watch him tackle, like his cover defence. So yeah, I think he's first name down at the moment.
And to your point too, Test match level is a lot different to Super Rugby, and that's where Finlay, when he gets to Test match level, he's solid right across that as well. 1 to 60 minutes is different from 60 to 80. Okay, so when you're getting those guys that you're saying, a little bit of different balance where a Roigard would, you know, he challenges the edges, so does Fakatava. With Christie, he will play solid and make sure he wins those sort of small moments within that 1 to 60 minute mark if he has to start. So I'm not worried, as I said. I'm not worried about our stocks of nines. If anything, you know, hopefully Roigard isn't out for too long, but he brings something different. He's certainly the form halfback.
Well, you talk about the stocks. We've just talked about 5 halfbacks there. Roigard, Fakatava, Hotham earlier, Christie and Perenara. Jeff, if Roigard is out, who are your best 3 nines in New Zealand right now? Who are the 3 in order?
In order? I mean...
1, 2, 3.
If I had to go, look, I would. If it was me, it would be Finlay Christie would be my number 1.
Christie's 1.
But that's because I know what I'm going to get. I know I'm going to trust. I'm going up against England. But then you have to start the conversation. That's really hard. That's
is it
really
Perenara, because
tough.
you also know what you're getting?
Once again, he's the perfect person to be your 3rd halfback, right? Yeah. So you sit there and you bring a Noah Hotham in, or you bring Folau Fakatava back in, and you go, you know what? Let's find out. Because I imagine at some point, Razor's going to want to find out about some of these young kids, and I imagine the first squad, it's going to be large, right? The first team he picks is going to be a whole lot of people he'll want to get to training. Yeah. You know, remember, I don't think he's having any camps during Super Rugby. They're not doing that way. They're having meetings with certain groups of people, but none of these camps. So before he prepares for England, you know what I'd be doing the first game? I'd be putting my trust...
Not ringing Aaron Smith.
What's that?
Not ringing Aaron Smith.
Now, here's a conversation.
Here's my 3.
No,
I'm not. Here's my 3. Christie, TJ Perenara, I'd bring him straight in for his experience, and Fakatava, because I think Fakatava is starting again. So he will have all this knowledge around him. So TJ then becomes the elder statesman. You can put him on a test, you're not worried about him, but then he can help people like Whakatawa get better at their game during the 10 weeks.
I think the other way around with Whakatawa second coming off the bench at this stage and TJ just finding his form and being that experienced sort of hold to possibly jump both of them as well.